Hello, my most awesome project managers. Welcome to our 5-question drill for today. I appreciate those of you who wrote in to appreciate the questions that I brought you last time. Indeed, some of these questions may seem to be very simplistic for some folks, but there are many people who are in the intermediate stage of getting ready for the exam. You see, getting ready for the PMP exam, you got to look at it in 3 stages. You got to look at it like beginner stage. Beginner stage is pretty much just the knowledge. Then the intermediate stage is really more about the knowledge and a little bit of question bending here and there. And maybe not so much as what should the project manager do next, but really knowing the hierarchy of things, just looking at page 25 or just looking at some of the inputs and outputs you have from the processes. So let's take a look at these one by one. Question 1. This is from risk management. You are a PMO manager in your firm. You're working with one of your project managers on a process to ensure that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are proportionate to both risks and the importance of her project to the organization and other stakeholders. What is this process known as? So I give you a few minutes or seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Let's take a look at the answer to this one. So if you open up the PMBOK guide and you explore the risk chapter, what you'll see is that this question is a direct cutout of 11.1. 11.1, where we talk about the identify risks process. I beg your pardon, where we talk about the plan risk management process on page 401. It states plan risk management is a process of defining how to conduct risk management activities for a project. The key benefit of this process is that it ensures that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are proportionate to both risks and the importance of the project to the organization and other stakeholders. So with that said, the answer that I was looking for you to choose is indeed plan risk management. That is the best option to choose in this one. So the answer, plan risk management. Let's go on to our next question. So question 2. You are establishing risk roles and responsibilities, stakeholder risk appetite, and timing for risk processes, a risk breakdown structure, and definitions of risk probability and impacts. What should you have done first before this? And let's see all the options that are available to us. So we have identify risks, we have perform qualitative risk analysis, we have identify stakeholders, we have plan risk management. I'll give you a minute. All right, well, let's take a look at the options one more time. And let's disqualify those that are not sensible options. So, establishing roles and responsibilities, talking about stakeholder risk appetite, timing for risk processes, that is done in plan risk management. So, it cannot be plan risk management because that is what the question describes. It says, what should you have done first before this? So what should you have done before plan risk management is the question. Plan risk management is out of the question. Identify stakeholders. It would make sense to know who your stakeholders are before you assess risk appetite, right? So let's hold on to C. B. Perform qualitative risk analysis. No, you would not do that before establishing roles and responsibilities. And identify risks. That is not correct because you do not do that before plan risk management. So the answer to this, as you probably guessed, is identify stakeholders. You would identify your stakeholders before you do any of these things. All right, let's move on to question 3 here. I hope this is helping someone. Those of you who have been studying maybe in a different course and you haven't really come across questions like this, I hope this is helping you. Make sure you share this with your friends. Question 3, descriptive terms such as very high, high, medium, low, and very low, or numeric values can be used for probability and impact. Where numeric values are used, these can be multiplied to give a probability impact score for each risk, which allows the relative priority of individual risks to be evaluated within each priority level. In which process would you decide upon the format of this associated matrix? So here we have identify risks, plan risk management, identify stakeholders, and perform qualitative risk analysis. So I'll give you a minute to think about it. If I'm too quick, hit the pause button before I share the answer. All right, so let's take a look. Again, you probably notice I used the process of elimination. So let's read from the bottom up. In which process would you decide upon the format for the associated matrix? Well, you probably know what they mean by associated matrix. They're talking about the probability and impact matrix. So where do you decide upon the format of the probability impact matrix? Well, you got to decide upon how it looks before you use it, right? So we are going to cancel perform qualitative risk analysis because that is where you actually use the matrix. You cannot decide upon the matrix in the process where you use the matrix. So we get rid of option 3, or option 4, I beg your pardon. Option 3 is identify stakeholders. This is not where you decide the format of the matrix. This is where you identify stakeholders, but not where you identify how the matrix will look. Option D, one more time, perform qualitative risk analysis. Just to be really clear, that is where you actually use the matrix to score the risk by multiplying probability rating times impact rating. All right. Option 3, plan risk management. Not a bad suggestion. Let's go to option A. Option A, it reads, identify risks. So when you go back to the mothership, the actual PMBOK guide, what is in the PMBOK guide is the question. Well, let's take a look at what's in the PMBOK guide. So I want you to follow me to the place that the probability and impact matrix is mentioned amidst other things. There are a number of other things that I would like you to be aware of in 12.1. So go into where this was shown in 12.1, page 408. It says probability and impact matrix prioritization rules may be specified by the organization in advance of the project and be included in organizational process assets, or they may be tailored to the specific project. Opportunities and threats are represented in a common probability and impact matrix using positive definitions of impact or for opportunities and negative impact definitions for threats. Descriptive terms such as very high, high, medium, low, and very low, or numeric values can be used. And then he goes on and on. And this, my friends, is where the matrix is decided upon. Did the matrix exist in the organization prior? Yes, but this is where it is tailored. This is where you decide upon many things. And I would like you to follow me to page 405. There's a boatload of stuff. Please take this down. The risk strategy, the risk methodology. What is the difference between the strategy versus methodology? Hold on a minute, I'll tell you. Roles and responsibilities, funding, timing, risk categories. And then you've got the RBS that is also defined in this process. And then it goes into the definitions of risk, probability, and impact, also known as the definition of impact scales, right? We also have the stakeholder risk appetite. Going back to question one, right? Stakeholder risk appetite is defined as part of your planning risk management. And then you get to the reporting formats, the tracking, and the probability and impact matrix on page 408. So, my friends, this stuff is very important for you to focus on. The difference between the risk strategy versus the risk methodology is the strategy is a more general approach to managing risks. It's broader. The methodology is going down to the nitty-gritty of the approaches, the tools, the data sources. It's really more about the hands-on parameters around the risk management. So risk strategy is a more broader perspective, a more overarching mindset to how you manage the risks. For example, I like the one the risk doctor gave me. He said, give me an example of, when you've done risk management in an organization. So I told him about a divestiture that I did here in Arizona. It was a divestiture of a semiconductor company into another that was swallowing them up. And he said, well, what was the overarching strategy? And I said, well, we needed to get to management as quickly as possible with any time there was a threat to the overarching objectives of the divestiture. And he said, yep, that is the risk strategy. Now, the methodology will be the things you use, like the probability impact matrix and the tactical hands-on tools that you use on the ground for risk. And that was a great way of revealing the mindset of risk strategy. It's broader than the methodology, which gets down into the lower levels of risk thinking. So, my friends, going back to the actual question, the answer to this is obviously a resounding plan risk management as the option. Okay. Now, along the way, I've also pointed out other things to you that I want you to be aware of. Okay. People often say, what's in it for you? Why do you want me to get certified? Some people actually think, they think I want them to get certified because I get a kickback from the PMI. I do not get a kickback from the PMI. I am only trying to help people. This morning alone, I think I got 3 emails from people who said, Phil, I had a mishap on the exam. I need you to help me. I want to help people. Okay. So if these may be too trivial for your highness, because some people are like, that's all crap, Phil. These are so easy. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. But there are a lot of people that are, they are not at this level yet. And this is helping someone. Okay. So don't get all bent out of shape because they're too easy for you. But I'm telling you, there are people out there that this is helping them think. Okay. Good. All right. Question 4. You are in the process of creating documentation of existing individual project risks and the sources of overall project risk. You are also bringing together information so the project team can respond appropriately to identified risks. What is the next best thing to do? I'm going to give you a minute for this one. All right. Well, let's take a look at the options here. I guess this question was fun and games for you, right? Easy peasy. Well, let's deal with this directly from the PMBOK guide. So you are in the process, you got to watch what you're doing. It says creating documentation of existing individual project risks and the sources of overall project risk. Two things, right? You are also bringing together information so the project team can respond appropriately to identified risks. What is the next best thing to do? This definition, in order for you to get this right, you need to know exactly what they're talking about. And the description of what they're talking about is smack dab in line with identifying risks. That's right. This is describing the identify risks process front and center. I know to some people it may come as a surprise, but if you go to 11.2 in the PMBOK guide and you read 11.2, which is on page 409, really well, what you'll discover is that this is talking about identify risks. Okay? So, knowing that this is talking about identify risks, we can extrapolate what the next best thing is by knowing what these descriptions are talking about. So, let's take a look at what they are talking about here. Risk categorization, I'm reading from the bottom. Risk categorization is really what you do in a process of risk management known as perform qualitative risk analysis. Identify risks, we know what that is. That is what we're doing right now, so that cannot be the answer. Plan how to respond in detail, that would be plan risk responses. That would be a nice thing to do, but it's not the immediate next thing you do after identifying of risks. Perform quantitative is also something you need to do in the future, but it's not the better of the options. The best of the options is right here, risk categorization, because that is what you do in perform qualitative risk analysis, which is the next process. Okay? I hope this gives you some further clarity on the importance of reading the PMBOK guide and really knowing what they mean when they say the key benefits of this process is blah, blah, blah. You got to listen out to what they mean when they say the key benefit of this process, the key benefit of this process. Those are the things you're going to have to read, my friends. All right, let's go to our next one. Number 5, participants in risk identification activities may include the following: project manager, project team members, project risk specialists, or project team, end users, other project managers, and operations managers? Or is it project team members, all stakeholders, and risk experts in the firm? Or is it project manager, customers, interested subject matter experts? What do you think? I'll give you a minute. All right, my friends. Well, let's call it a day here. It probably is very obvious to you that these all look very similar except for one word. And that keyword is all stakeholders, because all stakeholders encompasses everything here. Everything here falls under stakeholders. So the best option is option C. Project team members, all stakeholders, and risk experts in the firm. That is the one you want to choose because it is the best of all the options. It encapsulates everyone. All right. And that is it for this study for today. I hope you found it to be useful. And those of you getting ready for the exam, I wish you all the very best. You take care and bye for now. I hope the last one did show on your screen. Let me go back there just in case it didn't. I think something funky happened towards the end. So the answer to this one is here. I don't think it showed. I'll do it one more time. The answer to this is all stakeholders inclusive. So option C, this one is the best option. All right. Well, thank you. And remember, if you are looking for awesome out of this world project management training, coaching, development for your project management, the best place to go to is www.praizion.com. Why? Because the number one course for PMP prep is there. There is no other training course for the PMP that breaks it down into ridiculously detailed quantities like this. Take it from me. Take it from me. Not only was I part of the team and the main resource that developed most of the chapters, except the agile piece, Tiffany, one of my colleagues, did that. But majority of the other pieces, I developed those as the lead trainer. But I'm telling you this because I've taken a look at what is out there. A lot of what is out there is a talking head reading from a screen. That's really what it is. You don't have a lot of hands-on, get your hands dirty engagement. You don't have a lot of people breaking it down into the granular details in an organic fashion. It just doesn't exist. But in this course, you get the pleasure of seeing it, hearing it, being broken down into tiny little pieces that you can digest. That's what I'm talking about. Things that you can actually take back and mull over and digest and come away with a more robust understanding. Let me give you a quick example of this. In chapter 7 of this system, and this is the system, how it looks, but in chapter 6, I beg your pardon, of the system, we did chapter 7 in the past. Let's do chapter 6 today. In chapter 6, we talk about network diagrams. Now, just take a look beyond the 6th module, which is control schedule. We have a tutorial on the WBS and network diagrams. We also have a network diagram solution tutorial, and we have another optional tutorial. Let's take a look at the WBS and network diagrams tutorial. This already shows you it is not a death by PowerPoint. This is roll up your sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of it. This is roll up your sleeves and learn. Let's hear what exactly this is about. It's 1 hour and 29 minutes. And I mean, this is outside of the core processes. Think about that for a second. Let's watch it. Let's see what's going on here.
Hey, what's up, folks? It's your friend Phil here, Project Management Training Coach. Welcome to today's whiteboard session. How's your studying coming along? Are you hitting it hard? Are you making progress? I hope you are. Remember, we've got training to help you. Go to Praizion.com, sign up, stop procrastinating. You know you want to sign up for that program, so why procrastinate? We also have the Project Management Audio Digest. I've talked about this so many times. Go get it. It's on the Praizion site. You can get an instant download, or you could go on our site, and also via the link to Amazon, you could get the 24 CD set and 20 hours of audio. Really fantastic. So if you have been studying like you should, using these study aids and plowing through the material, you probably got to schedule management. And almost everyone has a question about schedule management. So I want to give you some ideas about how the concepts weave together. Okay? So let's go to the whiteboard here and talk about a process that happens before we actually get to scheduling. Before we get to scheduling, what should have happened? There should have been a work breakdown structure. Theoretically speaking, I know it doesn't happen in the real world like this all the time, but the idea is there's a WBS and it breaks the work down into work packages. So you get something like this. You got your WBS. I talked about this a few days ago in a different video, explaining the work down into work packages. So you get something like this. You got your WBS. I talked about this a few days ago in a different video, explaining the difference between the root node, the code of accounts, so on and so forth. All right. So we have our WBS. It could look something like this, for example. Okay. The lowest level in the WBS, right here, that's your work package. Okay. Those are your work packages at the bottom. Those are all your work packages.
So, my friends, I hope this has given you an idea of how deep and detailed this system gets. It is very, very, very detailed. Anyone who truly means business, maybe you've had a mishap on the exam, maybe you didn't do too well, and you're looking at how to recover, you really need to go through a course this deep so that you get all of that stuff, all of that hazy stuff, you get it all straight. See? There's another video on the 0 method or the 1 method. Going back to the list of things here, there are many, many other videos and materials. There's network diagram problems for you to do, solutions, and that is just one chapter. I just wanted to show you one chapter. We also have the 1 minute plus summary. As you can see here, this is the introduction to schedule. So it is very, very well covered, not just, at a high level, but lots of detail. This is the so-called 1 minute plus summary, but it's 3 minutes on its own, and that is followed by the concepts, trends, and tailoring. It's very robust indeed.
Hello, welcome to a 1 minute plus summary for schedule management. First thing, as usual, that you do in schedule management is to plan schedule management, to come out with a schedule management plan as an output. The schedule management plan drives what happens in scheduling. The next process is define activities. In define activities, we want to define what is being done, what needs to be done on the project. And how do we do that? We take our work breakdown structure and we break it down even further into activities. We call this an activity list, a list of activities. Also, as an output from here, we have activity attributes and the milestone list. Our next process is sequence activities. This is where we take the activity list and we put the activities in order. Our major output from here is called a project schedule network diagram. Our next process is estimate activity durations. We estimate the durations for each activity. Now, in order to do that, we need to know the resources that we need. As a result, we rely heavily on the resource management knowledge area to furnish us with those resource estimates. So when we know how many resources are available, we can then predict how long it will take us to complete the work. There's no way you can create a solid duration estimate without knowing your resources available. There's no way you can provide a solid basis of estimate without thinking about resources and cost as well. Our next process is develop schedule. In develop schedule, we put the big schedule with all of the inputs together. We have so many documents and so many pieces that finally come together to create a schedule baseline. That is one of our major outputs of develop schedule. The schedule baseline is a snapshot of all of that schedule model information frozen in time that tells us when things happen. We also have, as an output of developed schedule, the project schedule, which is a living, breathing document that is not etched in stone. The project schedule is different from the schedule baseline in that schedule baseline, etched in stone, project schedule, living, breathing document that is fluid and dynamic and changes based on actuals. We also have schedule data. And the schedule data is all of that data that is in the schedule. We also have project calendars that are talked about here as an output. And it's very important because some projects have a 24-hour calendar and some projects don't. And some projects have working 7 days of the week and some have working 5 days of the week. So as we develop our schedule, we get these outputs that tell us more about the nature of the schedule that has been developed. Our last process is control schedule, and this is where we prevent any of the activities from going off track, and this is where we ensure that a change has occurred if it has, and this is where we also seek to be proactive to see if any changes could occur. And if those change requests come from this process, they are processed through the Perform Integrated Change Control process. Don't forget, a very important output from most monitoring and controlling processes, those outside of integration, is work performance information. And that concludes our, well, not so 1 minute plus summary.
All right, my friends. Well, you did see the more like a 4 minute or 3 minute plus summary. And this is the level of detail we get into. We first of all ease you into the content, an intro to that knowledge area. And then we go into the CTTC so that you're really grounded in that particular knowledge area. For example, we get into the CTTCs for schedule management. Let's take a listen to that. And you see that this is equally substantial. It's 3 minutes. It's not too much, but it's just enough to get you to be thinking along the concepts, trends, and tailoring and considering agile, because you do know that on the PMP exam, you are going to get an injection of agile, just in case you didn't know. And those of you taking the exam in 2020, you better just understand that agile is going to be front and center of that exam. You're going to get a lot more agile than you're getting today. So let's go to the CT.
Let's talk about our CTTs for schedule management. I think the big one here is understanding what exactly we're trying to achieve. What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to create this detailed plan that shows people when things will be delivered on the project, when our deliverables and sub-deliverables are going to be delivered. Now, the project management team should select a scheduling method. They should select a scheduling tool that makes sense, that is on par with the size and visibility of the project, that corresponds with the needs contractually on the project if you're working for an external customer. It's also important that we understand that agile is a possibility. And in the world of agile, the way schedules work are a little bit different. In fully plan driven, it's all planned up front very rigidly. In the world of agile, things become fluid and dynamic and they can be moved around. Now, think about your project size. Big project, small project. Big project, in my opinion, needs to be a little bit more regimented in the world of fully plan driven. Also, in the world of fully plan driven, smaller projects may not need as much effort to manage and control, obviously, because of size. Let's talk about the trends of schedule management. One of the trends emerging is an iterative schedule with a backlog. Think about rolling wave planning. So that's pretty new. When we talk about on-demand scheduling and the use of Kanban systems, this is also being talked about in the world. Tailoring considerations, Think about the life cycle approach of the project. Which life cycle approach allows for a more detailed schedule, or which life cycle approach allows for a loosely created schedule? Think about resource availability. Of course, there's a correlation between resource availability and productivity. There's a correlation between resources and your schedule. Your schedule runs smooth when resources are available. When they're not, we know what happens. So just think about tailoring your schedule approach to the resources available. When we think about project dimensions, think about project complexity and how complexity could impact your schedule. Also, think about technology. Don't go overboard using Project Server when there's no one in the firm that understands SQL or any of the supporting technologies that Project Server depends upon. When you're considering Agile, be honest, and if an Agile schedule that needs to be more fluid and more dynamic is the best option, go ahead and use that. And that concludes our review of CTTs for schedule management.
All right. Well, you've seen the CTTCs, you've seen the intro, and like I told you, that is just scratching barely the surface. Because if you get into all the nitty gritty, you got a video for every process. Every one of the 49 has its own video. This one, plan schedule management, is 4+ minutes long, so it all adds up, but it does it in a digestible fashion so that you are not inundated with content. Now the more we have to talk about, the deeper we need to go, like in define activities. You can see this is 8 minutes long plus, and that's just how it is. Economies of scale. I mean, some processes are harder than others and they need more time than others, you know, or talk about a process such as sequence activities. I mean, it's so significant that we needed to have additional tutorials for network diagrams, you see. So sequence activities, as you experience it in the first video that you watch for sequence activities, it's 11 minutes. You see the size is growing, but on top of this, we have additional content, you see. How good is that? So for those of you who are still wondering, should I sign up? Should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? Of course you should sign up. You already know that this is what you should do. But my question to you is, why aren't you doing it? This is absolutely what you should be doing right now, right? Go onto the system, sign up, and come aboard the journey. Someone says, Phil, how do I do it? Go to www.praizion.com, exactly as it's spelt, Praizion.com. When you go on Praizion.com, you want to sign up for this one right here that says PMP Exam Prep Camp 2018. And that's the year it was released. It is still as relevant as ever right here. Some of you who may have failed the exam, don't miss a beat. Look, sign up for this program, drink the Kool-Aid, soak in the dogma, soak in the PMBOK doctrine, make yourself bulletproof. Do all the quizzes, do all the mock exams, do everything on that system. And I'm telling you, there is no way you go through the process that you do not gain the tangibility. Go through the process. There are no shortcuts. I know a lot of people think, oh, if I just jump on a quiz bank, if I just jump on a mock exam question bank, I'll be good for the exam. No, you won't. Why? Because there is a ton of redundancy on the PMP exam. I have said this a number of times. It bears repeating. There is a bunch of redundancy on the PMP exam. What do I mean by that? I mean that if Phil went into the exam today to take it and you went into the exam tomorrow, those questions would be significantly different. And if Johnny went in on Wednesday and Mary went in on Thursday, the questions will be largely different. There are no repeat performances question by question where, oh, all 200 questions Phil gets, someone else is going to. No. I'm telling you, take it from me. There is so much redundancy in the exam that if you're thinking you will be able to find how the questions are worded and phrased, and you know, maybe by some freak algorithm you'll come up with a formula or something to crack the code of the PMI. I'm telling you, it ain't gonna happen, my friend. It ain't gonna happen, because you know why? The PMI, they have a ton of volunteers, a ton of question writers. A student of mine said, Phil, I'm not allowed to tell you what happened, but I went to a question writing meeting. I said, oh, okay. I see that you're now on the dark side. You're not on my side anymore, because you drunk the Kool-Aid from the PMI. You're now one of the big wigs, huh? So I mean, this was over a decade ago that she told me, "Hey, I'm writing questions." I mean, she is a guru in the area of communications. I can only imagine what havoc she has caused for some poor soul getting ready for the exam. So all of that to say, my friends, there is a lot of redundancy on this exam. Okay, don't put your eggs in some ridiculous basket of, oh, this company said all their questions are like the PMP exam. Look, nobody has questions like the PMI. What I can assure you, though, if you came aboard our system, the questions, especially in the 200 question mock exams that we have, the questions are so decadent. It's sometimes just so annoying to have to take that mock exam, but not in a bad way. I'm talking about from the perspective of someone who is taking it as a PMP already. There are still questions in there that get me, and I'm talking about questions I didn't write, because we have 7 different question writers in addition to me who write those questions. So I don't know all the questions, you know. Some of those questions still get me thinking. Last weekend, a student asked me a question and I immediately jumped at a wrong answer. It gave me a run for my money. But in rationalizing it, we found out, okay, this is why that is the right answer. That is why you would get it wrong if you chose exploit versus something else. True story, my friends. Anyway, I hope this gives you some ideas of what you need to be doing. This is a system you need to be on. This is a system you need to be on. Please do not waste your hard-earned bucks going to those $20, $10, $12 system and thinking you're saving. It's penny wise, pound foolish. And don't listen to little Levi who told you, well, that's what I did and I passed the exam. Don't listen to Levi. Levi isn't telling you the whole truth. Levi read the PMBOK guide 10 times. So if you're basing your success on going for that ramshack system, down the road, I'm telling you, Levi isn't telling you the full story. All right, my friends. Nice talking to you today. I wish you all the best. Bye for now.